Good evening everyone. Welcome to the News Today session of 20th January. My name is Anuj and I will be taking today's session. In today's session, we will be covering 5 main news and 7 quick update. There is no place or personality in news for today. In the first main news, we will be covering about India and UAE relationship as the President of the UAE has paid an official visit to India. Then in the second main news, we will be covering about the India's 2026 diplomatic strategy. Then in the third main news, we will be covering about the demographic winter as the China's population has declined for the 4th consecutive years. Then we will be covering about priority sector lending as RBI has overhauled the priority sector lending norms. Then we will be covering about the expansions of greenhouse gas emission cut regime under the carbon credit trading scheme. Then we will be briefly covering the 7 quick update. This is the brief about today's session. Let us deep dive into this session and discuss the news in detail. First news, you might have heard and read about the recent visit of President of the UAE, which was very short and which was on a very short notice. Whenever there is such a development, it becomes important because it was not a usual trip. It was planned in a very faster way and it was planned for only 3 hours. That was the time, more time was taken to fly rather than the meeting. And it is related to paper 2 where syllabus talks about bilateral, regional and the global grouping. Let us discuss this news. First of all, the development and where UAE is located. If you will be analyzing the prelims paper, you will be noticing that there are a lot of questions which are coming on the based of mapping. So whenever you are reading a country, please note down where it is located, what are the boundary countries and the water region. It is located here and there is Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman here. And why this development is important? Let us go back and understand what is happening in the Western Asia. You know, there is a war going on in Yemen and Saudi is supporting one side and UAE supporting another side. So there is a war in the Yemen. Then there is a building up of a bloc where Saudi Arabia and Pakistan are already together. And even now Turkey is saying that we will be joining that bloc. So this is the brief development which is happening in the Western Asia. Then there is talks of formation of Gaza Peace Board where India as well as UAE members are invited. So this is all happening in the Western Asia. In this context, UAE President has visited India and it become important because UAE want to diversify its relation. In the Western Asia, it has singled out. So it is looking for diversifications of relation and it sees India as a strategic partner. That's why that the quick visit to India. Now let us discuss about the key outcome which was there after the meeting. Let us discuss about the strategic announcement. So both the leader has agreed to double the bilateral trade to $200 billion by 2032. The previous target was around 100 billion US dollars. So it has been doubled. The second strategic outcome was related to the civil nuclear cooperation, where there is exploration of partnership in the nuclear energy and specifically for the small modular reactor. If you are reading newspaper, you might be going through this term, small modular reactor. Okay, small means that its generation capacity is small and that is around 300 megawatts. Okay, and modular means that it can be assembled. Then reactor, it means there will be nuclear fission reaction in it. It is important for your prelims examination in itself, the small modular reactor, because there are been talk about it in the budget and even the government is focusing about small modular reactor. Even when the President of Russia visited India, there was talk about small modular reactors. Then there is establishment of digital or data embassies. What are they? Basically, they are embassies in an offshore center where a nation state stores its critical digital data. And what are they for? They are for continuing the data sovereignty if there is any attack, natural calamity, or the geopolitical tension. For that, there is establishment of digital and the data embassies. And in the strategic announcement, there is also talk about AI and tech. In this, there is collaboration for supercomputing clusters under India's AI mission. So these are strategic outcome or announcement in the visit. Now let us move forward and look at the other key agreement, MOUs and letter of intent. First of all, there has been strategic defense partnership which aims to establish framework for deepened defense cooperation, and it is across technology, training and the cyber domain. Then there is talk of energy supply. Whenever a Western Asian country visit to India, there will be talks about energy supply, and we will be looking at the PYQ which is related to energy supply from the Western Asia. In it, there has been sales and purchase agreement for the LNG supply from Abu Dhabi National Oil Corporation to HPCL for 10 years. So these are the outcome from the recent visit. Now let us briefly look at the India and UAE relationship. First of all, both the countries have signed comprehensive economic partnership agreement. It is a agreement which is better than FTA, as it also include investment, mobility and the other things. Then UAE is consistently India's third largest trading partner. Which country is the largest trading partner of India? USA. Then second largest trading partner, China. And UAE is the third largest India's trading partner. But when it comes to export, it is the second largest export destination. And which is the first largest export destination? Again, it is USA. So these types of facts are very important for your prelims examination. Then UAE is India's major crude oil, LNG and LPG supplier. So these were all about India and UAE relation. Now let us look at the PYQ which are related to this news. First, the PYQ is from prelims examination, and the question is, consider the following countries: A, UAE, second France, Germany, Singapore and Bangladesh. So the question is, how many countries among the above are there other than India where international merchant payments are accepted under UPI? So this is the question. It is simple and it is asking that where this UPI is accepted. So it is accepted in UAE, it is accepted in France and it is accepted in Singapore. After these three countries, there are other 4 to 5 countries where UPI is accepted, but it is not accepted in Germany and Bangladesh. So what will be the answer? The answer will be B, only 3. So this was the question from the prelims examination. Now let us look at the mains examination question. It is from year 2017 and the question is direct and simple. The question is, the question of India's energy security constitute the most important part of India's economic progress. Analyze India's energy policy cooperation with the West Asian countries. So here you have to analyze the India's energy policy cooperation with the West Asian countries. So this was all in the first news. Now let us move to the second news for today. Second news is from the editorial, and the news is that India's 2026 diplomatic strategy. If you are following the global order, you might be seeing that there are terms like geo-economic confrontation as the large powers like USA have become volatile. Russia power is waning as it is going into the wars, and China is not reliable. This is the background of this news, and in this news we will be covering about the option and what India can provide at the global forum. And it is also related to GS paper 2 where syllabus talks about international relation. Now let us discuss this news. First of all, the development. We have already discussed the context and the background. Let us discuss the development. It is saying that in the contemporary global landscape, the tangible outcomes are now shifting from large and unwieldy bodies like the UN and G20 to the smaller, agile and issue-focused coalition. So here there is a debate about the minilaterals or the smaller groups, how they can provide the direction to the global order. Why? Because in the contemporary global landscape, tangible outcomes are now shifting from the large groups such as UN to smaller groups. And why there has been this talk? Because this year, when we will be celebrating our Republic Day, our chief guest is from EU, and it is moving away from tradition where we used to call a single country president or a leader. Here, this year, we have invited leader of EU, and we want to talk about the free trade agreement and how we can move forward. Even into last to last news today, we have discussed about third pole. There also the context and the development was similar. Now let us discuss this news. First of all, the shifting diplomatic landscape of the 2026. Why it has become very important? First of all, there will be the demanding bilateral relations. Now countries are behaving like they are the army chief. That means the countries' leaders are behaving like that they are army chief. You can see the tenure of the Donald Trump. He is dictating terms on his whims and fancies. That become very difficult when we talk about the bilateral relation. Secondly, there is strain on large multilateral forum. When there was when there was a attack on Venezuela, although it was in the conflict with the UN Article 2 of UN Charter, even then UNSC was not able to stop the attack on Venezuela. Here you should ask, what is the Article 2 of UN Charter? Please read about the Article 2 of UN Charter and also read about Article 51 of the UN Charter. That become very important because it is continuously in news. Article 2, Article 51 of the UN Charter. But for here, we have to understand that there is strain on the large multilateral forum. And we have also observed that in 2025, US boycotted the Johannesburg G20 summit. That means the large summits are not able to produce result that leave a wide space in the global arena where there is requirement of a coordinator. So it has become like this, that there is a room and there are talks going on, but there is no one to control those talks. That means the result of those talks won't be good. That means it won't be clear that where the direction of the talks are going on. That's why this space has risen where India can act as a coordinator in the global forum. Now let us discuss about that fact, that how India can engage in diplomatic white space. We have already discussed what is this white space. Let us understand this. Diplomatic white space are defined as gaps in the global leadership. So every country leader is looking for their own benefit, and whereas when we talk about the global goods such as climate change, global health, global trade is suffering because there is no concrete leadership. So let's give space to India. And what India is doing this year, India has to arrange a lot of meetings. India is arranging a lot of meetings. It is going to deal with European Union. We have already discussed that for this year, Republic Day, leaders of European Union are invited as chief guest. We will be also hosting the BRICS summit. We will be also hosting the Quad summit, which was to held last year, but it will be this year. So these are some summit India will be holding. Then there are other summits as well, such as AI Impact Summit. And other summit as well. So that's why it become very important for us. And in European Union, presence of EU institutional leadership as chief guest at the January 26 signal intent to advance the long pending India-EU free trade agreement. This is a long pending agreement. Even UPSC in the prelims examination have directly asked about this agreement, and this agreement is known as BTIA. If you look at the PYQ in the year 2017, I guess, there was a direct question on this agreement. It is very important for us. Then in BRICS, we are the chair and we will be the hosting the BRICS in 2026, and in this India can undertake the practical measures. So what is the problem BRICS is facing? So basically BRICS is now looked as at the anti-West, or that it is focusing on de-dollarization. So India have to balance it, that this is not an anti-West institution, whereas it is an institution where there will be support to the global South, and global South is required for the development of the world and they need support, and India through this summit can provide this support. Then there is the Quad summit which has to be hosted by India this year, and it is expected that the president of USA will also visit India in this, and we can move further with the relationship with the USA, Japan and Australia. These are some summits in which India can prove its mettle and provide the direction at the global level. So this was about this news. Now let us discuss PYQ related to this news. The first PYQ is from Prelims 2025. It is not directly from this news, but you can see what type of questions are coming. The question is, consider the following statement with regards to BRICS. Statement 1, 16th BRICS summit was held under the chairmanship of Russia in Kazan. This is an correct statement. Then second, Indonesia has become a full member of BRICS. There was expansion of BRICS and Indonesia became a member. And when NATO expanded, even the question was there on the NATO. So in the recent year, the questions on the membership of various groups such as NATO or SCO or G20, ASEAN, questions are coming. So you should be very careful when you are reading about the members of various groupings. Then the third statement, the theme of the 16th BRICS summit was strengthening multiculturalism for the just global development and security. This statement is not correct as multiculturalism was not mentioned. So the answer is A, 1 and 2. Then there is a mains question from the year 2020, a 15-marker question, and the question is, Quad is transforming itself into a trade bloc from a military alliance in the present time. Discuss. So here the question is asking about the relevance of Quad. So this was all about the second news. Now let us discuss the third news for today. So the third news for today is that the China's population has declined for the fourth consecutive year. In this news, we will be understanding about the concept of demographic winter, and we will be also solving one PYQ which is directly related to this news, and it is mentioned in paper 1 where syllabus talks about population and the associated issue. Now let us discuss this news in detail. First of all, the development. Here the numbers are not important, but the overall development is important. The development is that the China's population has dropped by 3.39 millions to 1.405 billions, and this has led to total number of birth dropped by 7.92 millions in 2025, and this phenomena is called as demographic winter, and it is no longer restricted to the developed nation. Before moving further, let us understand about two things. One, total fertility rate. So basically, it is the total number of children given by the woman in the reproductive age, and its replacement rate is 2.1. If total fertility rate is 2.1, then there will not be decline in the population, and if it is more than 2.1, there will be increase in the population, and if the TFR is below 2.1, there will be decline in the population. Now let us also understand about demographic transition. Let us understand it in 4 stages. Okay, so here the birth rate and the death rate will be high in the first stage. The birth rate and the death rate are high, then means population will be stable but it will be low. Then there will be the fall in the death rate, but the birth rate will be high. So here in the second stage, the population will increase in a very rapid manner. Then in the third stage as well, the birth rate will also decline, as the death rate will also decline. So this gap, increase in the population, will decrease. Then in the last, they will become stable, and it will lead to stability in the population. This is demographic transition. In first stage, there will be no growth in the population. In the second stage, the population growth will be high. In the third stage, population growth will be low, and in the fourth stage, again the population growth will stabilize, but the total population will increase like this. So it will stable here, then increase rapidly, then increase, then become stable again. So this is demographic transition. Now let us understand about the demographic winter. What is demographic winter? Basically, it is described as a demographic phase characterized by a persistent and structural decline in the population growth. So basically, it usually takes place in the fourth transition phase, and when TFR is below than 2.1. Okay, that we have also written. Its key indicator include that the birth rate below the replacement rate of fertility, that is 2.1, and the inverted population pyramid is there. Suppose the birth rate is high, so the children will be more. If birth rate is low and the death rate will be also low, then the total population in the upper incline, that is in the older age group, will be higher. That will lead to the inverted population pyramid. Now let us understand about the other factors, such as what are the reasons for demographic winter. First of all, the delayed milestone. So people, when they have career aspiration and the economic pressures, it leads to delay in marriages and lead to low fertility. Then the other factor is urbanization. As it become very costly, so there are smaller and more expensive factors that lead to lower fertility or the lower birth growth. Then there is societal and the cultural shift as well, as there is increasing female participation in the workforce that lead to the delayed childbirth. Then there is access to the family planning. Now people have access to the family planning and they can control the size of the family. Then there are also legacy policies such as one child policy of China, which has led to the rapid decline of population. And how we can overcome this? So what is way ahead to deal with the demographic winter? First of all, we can increase the pro-natalist policies. And what they include? They include the financial incentives. So like if you have child, financial incentives will be given, and also there will be the parental leaves to have more children. When you will be studying about countries like Italy, Japan, there you can see such type of policies. Then there is need to adapt to the silver economy. What is silver economy? It is the economy related to the older population. There is need to adaptation to the silver economics. Then there will be the economic structural reform. And what is the requirement in here? The requirement is that there is need to address the cost of living crisis. As we have seen that in the urban areas, that cost of living is becoming very heavy and that lead to low birth rate. Then there can be global migration governance, because when we see at the global level, there are some countries which have very high population and there are some countries which have low population. So you can see India's policy now, whenever India is talking about FTAs, India is talking about migration of skilled workforce. So India can send skilled workforce, and countries such as Japan, Russia can accept the skilled workforce. This is about the global migration governance. Now let us discuss the PYQ related to this news. So PYQ is from the year 2024 of the mains examination, and the question is, what is the concept of demographic winter? We have discussed this. And is the world moving towards such a situation? Elaborate. So here you can talk about demographic transition theory, and you can support your answers by various example and the data and how you can deal with this situation. That all we have discussed in this news. Okay. With this, we have completed this news. Now let us move to the next news. Next news is about priority sector lending. And the development is that the RBI has overhauled the priority sector lending norm. And why RBI has need to overhaul the priority sector lending? Because recently it has been observed that the priority sector lending counting was double counted by some private banks. That's why RBI has overhauled the priority sector lending norm. And it is related to GS paper 3, where syllabus talks about monetary policy. Now let us discuss this news. First of all, the development, we have already discussed the we have already discussed the context. So RBI has issued Reserve Bank of India priority sector lending target and classification direction for 2025. And what is PSL? Basically, RBI has two options. One is qualitative monetary policies, and another one is quantitative monetary policies. So in qualitative monetary policies, basically RBI gives direction to the credit, and in quantitative monetary policies, RBI manages the credit in the economy. So PSL comes under the qualitative monetary framework of the RBI. And what is PSL? Basically, PSL ensure that the vulnerable section of society and the underdeveloped areas get access to the credit, and this is decided by RBI and the government. When you go into the background of PSL, you will learn about the Gadgil Committee and lead bank scheme in 1969. Why I am focusing on lead bank scheme? Because in last 10 to 15 years, there are two PYQs in the year 2012, I think, and also in the year 2019, where UPSC has directly asked about lead bank scheme. We will be discussing about that PYQ. So basically this scheme was that one bank will look at the development in an area about 15 to 20 villages. That's why whenever you are reading such static topic, you should be knowing about its background. Now let us discuss about various targets under PSL for the different type of banks. So here, before discussing, in this CDS paper, CDS2 paper, it is also conducted by UPSC. There was a question that regional rural bank and small finance bank has a target of 75% under PSL. So before these guidelines, that statement was correct. But after these guidelines, that statement is wrong, because the target for small finance bank has been changed by RBI. Now let us understand about various targets. First of all, about the domestic commercial bank and the foreign bank with 20 branches and above. So they have target of 40% of adjusted net bank credit, okay, and or credit equivalent of off-balance sheet exposure. Then foreign banks with less than 20 branches, they have the same domestic bank target as the same domestic banks, but they can provide 32% to the export credit. Export credit means to promote export, and remaining 8% can be given to the other priority sectors such as MSMEs or for the weaker section. And for regional rural banks, the target is of about 75%, and till recently the target for small finances bank was also 75%, and that exact statement was there in the CDS paper. So that statement was correct previously, but it will be not correct if we read that statement after these guidelines. Now let us discuss about these guidelines. So what are their key features? First of all, there is enhanced compliance and the external audit. So previously, bank used to audit themselves, but now RBI has said that bank need to obtain certificate from the external auditor, and there should not be double counting. That means, so even the bank is counting that as PSL, and even the intermediaries such as microfinance institutions or NBFCs is counting them as priority sector lending. So that should not take place. That's why there is need for an external auditor. Then there is revised sector target for the small finance bank, and it has changed from 75% to 60%. Then there is inclusion of NCDC for the rural credit. These developments are very important. I have also supported this with the example of question from the CDS examination. So here, loan provided by the banks to the National Cooperative Development Corporation. Please read about National Cooperative Development Corporation. These are under the Ministry of Cooperation, and for the purpose of own lending to the cooperative societies are now officially classified under PSL. So these all development are very important. Then there are other development in this revised PSL guidelines, that are banks are also permitted to enter into co-lending arrangement. Co-lending means they can lend along with intermediaries such as NBFCs. Then banks are allowed to treat export credit to agriculture and MSMEs as PSL loans. So this is a simple line. So these are the key feature of the latest RBI PSL guidelines. Now let us look at the PYQ. The question is from the year 2019. So the service area approach was implemented under the purview of, we have already discussed it, it was under the lead bank scheme, and similar PYQ was there in the year 2012. What was the change here? There they have asked about lead bank scheme, and this statement was given under the option. That's why it become very important to analyze PYQ by understanding all the option. In the year 2012 only there was the reversal. The question was about lead bank scheme and its target, but in 2019 the question was reversed. So with this we have completed this news. Now let us move to the last main news for today. The last main news for today is the expansion of greenhouse gas emission cut regime under the carbon credit trading scheme. In this news we will be learning about the expansion of these emission target and about the carbon credit trading scheme. And it is related to GS paper 3, where syllabus talks about conservation and the environmental pollution. Now let us discuss the news. First of all, the development. The development here is that the Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has notified the greenhouse gas emission intensity target amendment rule 2025 under the Environmental Protection Act. This is very important that this is under the Environmental Protection Act of 1986. So before moving further, let us understand about carbon trading in simple language. Suppose these are the two companies, company A and company B, and they have the target this of carbon emission, that they can emit this much of carbon, but this has not emitted carbon, so it is below its target, and it has emitted more carbon. So here this carbon can be transferred, and this company can transfer its credit in the lieu of money. That is the simple meaning of transfer of carbon. If one company is producing more carbon, that can buy the carbon credit from the another company. Here A can buy from the B in exchange of money. That is simple carbon trading, and it was first introduced under Kyoto Protocol, and there was a direct question about this carbon trading in the year 2009 about the Kyoto Protocol. Okay, now let us move further and understand about this news. First of all, what are the details? There has been expansion, and 4 new industries have been included, and those are petroleum refinery, petrochemical, textile and secondary aluminium. And previously there was 4 industries. Those were aluminium, cement, chlor-alkali and pulp and paper. So these 8 industries are under this scheme. Secondly, what are targets and timeline? So they have to reduce their greenhouse gas emission intensity starting from the compliance year of 2025-26. You might have heard about this term, emission intensity, but what it means? Basically, it means amount of carbon produced per product. Means how much carbon you are producing in producing product. That is emission intensity. Then there is reduction goal as well. So this scheme wants that their overall emission intensity reduction target range from 3% to 7%, and the baseline is 2023-24. This is also very important, that what is the baseline for this scheme. Then what is the compliance mechanism? So basically the unit which are falling to meet this target must purchase the carbon credit certificate to cover the shortfall. We have understand about the buying and selling of the carbon credit certificate, how those are generated and how those can be sold and who can purchase them. So if someone is falling short, they have to buy these carbon credit certificate, and if they fail to buy those, they will attract an environmental compensation penalty, and that will be the double the price of this carbon credit certificate. So these are the details of that scheme. Now let us discuss in detail about the carbon credit trading scheme. We have learned about carbon trading here, its origin. So it was notified in the year 2023, and there was a direct question based on this in the year 2023. We will discuss that PYQ after this slide, and it was declared under Energy Conservation Act of 2001. Then what was its objective? Basically it laid the foundation for Indian carbon market by establishing the institutional framework. Before that we were having PAT, perform, achieve and trade. It is the enhanced version. And what is the structure? First of all, we talk about the administrator. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency set target and issues CCS. Then regulator is Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, regulate the trading. And where these certificates are registered, they are registered in Grid Controller of India Limited. And its mechanism, it's operate on a cap and trade model. And what are it there in this? It is, these are obligated entities that reduce emission beyond their target. Basically they have to reduce beyond their target. So this is about carbon credit trading scheme. Now let us discuss the PYQ which is related to this news, and it is from 2023. It is little bit difficult, let us understand it. So consider the following statement. Statement 1, carbon market are likely to be one of the most widespread tool in the fight against the climate change. It is an correct statement. So they will become a important tool to fight against climate change. Statement 2, carbon market transfer resources from the private sector to the state. This is also an correct statement, but it is not the correct explanation of the statement 1. Why? Because the main aim for the carbon market is not to transfer the resources from the private to the state, but to fight the climate change. So that's why the answer was that both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, but statement 2 is not the correct explanation for the statement 1. So with this we have completed the main news for today. Now let us discuss the quick update. So the first quick update for today is about the Responsible Nation Index. This is very important because India has recently launched the Responsible Nation Index to prioritize ethical governance and global responsibility rather than merely focus on the economic indicators. So under this, the focus areas will be the ethical governance, social well-being, environmental stewardship and the global responsibility. And it has been developed by the World Intellectual Foundation along with JNU and IIM Mumbai. This index is important for your examination as India has launched this. And the parameter under this are ethical governance, social well-being, environmental stewardship and global responsibility. And the top ranked countries are Singapore, Switzerland and Denmark. Whereas India is at the 16th place and such countries such as US and China are falling behind. But when we talk about economic indicators, these countries are far ahead than the other countries such as Singapore, Switzerland and the Denmark. But when we talk about the responsible nation index, they are far behind. And the framework, the global index evaluate around 154 countries on parameter of responsibility, and here the responsibility is of ethical governance, social well-being, environmental stewardship and the global responsibility. With this, we have completed this quick update. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about Environmental Protection Fund. So basically these are the funds which are governed by the Environmental Protection Act of 1986, and in this the fines are collected from the various acts such as Air Act of 1987, 81, Water Act of 1974 and Environmental Act of 1986. So here, what is the development? Development is that the Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has notified the Environmental Protection Funds Rule 2026 to streamline the use of Environmental Protection Fund. So we have to understand what is the Environmental Protection. First of all, we have to understand that this is under the Environmental Protection Act of 1986, and in this fines are collected from the Act, Air Act of 1981, Water Act of 1974 and the Environmental Act of 1986, and these funds goes to the public account of India. There are other two accounts as well, such as contingency fund and the consolidated fund. But these amounts goes to the public account of India. This is very important. Then what is the allocation like? 75% fund goes to the state and the remaining 25% is with the center. So here the major development is about utilization, how these funds can be utilized. So this is given here. These are earmarked for the monitoring networks, remediation of the contaminated site and the research and development of the clean technology. With this, we have completed about this quick update. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about Kamchatka Peninsula. What is a peninsula? Basically a land which is sided by water bodies on the three sides. We have also Indian Peninsula. So the development is that the powerful winter storm has paralyzed the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia Far East, burying the home, and you might have seen this in newspaper that whole streets are covered by the ice. So there is a lot of ice and the winters are very severe. So here we will be discussing about this peninsula, basically where it is located. It is located in the far eastern federal district of Russian Federation. If we look at the map, this is located here, and on west of it is Sea of Okhotsk, and in east it is Bering Sea in the Pacific Ocean. Okay. Then what are its geographical features? It is located between Sea of Okhotsk on the west and Pacific Ocean, and there are many volcanic activities here which goes on continuously, as there are many active volcanoes in these areas, and as this is very cold, it is sparsely populated region. Then there is a river, Kamchatka river, and there is mostly tundra climate. Tundra climate is a very cold climate where winters are very long and dry. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about Chips to Startup program. And why it is important? Because India is focusing a lot on semiconductor development, and for development of semiconductor we require chips, and for this, that is Chips to Startup program. So the context here is that the Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology has recently highlighted the program progress that notified over 1 lakh enrollment. And for what this program is there, basically it is an umbrella capacity building launched by the MIT in 2026. So it will enhance the capability of 85,000 students, which will be industry ready professional across undergraduate, postgraduate and doctoralship level. So there is enrollment of 1 lakh, and it is given that around 60,000 students have been given training under this, and it has provided access to the smart lab facilities as well. So this was about the Chips to Startup program. Whenever you are writing about the semiconductor development, you can write about this initiative, or if there is a direct question in the prelims examination, you must be able to solve this. Then the next is Central Silk Board, and the development is that the government has increased the Central Silk Board approval limit to speed up the project. Previously, their limit was up to 50 lakhs. Now their limit has been increased to 1 crore. Okay, so this limit has been increased to increase the speed up limit of the project. That means that the project should be speed up. Now let us understand about Central Silk Board. So it is an statutory body, and which was established in 1948, and as it is clear from its name, it is for the development of the silk, and it is under the Ministry of the Textile. Before moving further, let us understand about the silk in India. India is the second largest producer of silk, and the largest producer of silk is China. You might have studied about Silk Route. India was also there in that, and India is the largest consumer of silk in India, and there are various types of silk in India, that are mulberry, oak, tassar, tropical tassar, muga and eri, and around 92% of country's total raw silk production is from mulberry, and major states are like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Assam and Jammu Kashmir. So this was about silk in India. Important fact here is that India is the second largest producer of silk and the types of silk. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about credit assessment model of MSMEs. So here the development is that the public sector bank has sanctioned over some amount to MSMEs under a new credit assessment model. So basically under this credit assessment model, digital footprints were used. Let us understand about this assessment model. So basically in this, borrowers' digital footprints was used to enable them with the faster data-driven and objective appraisal of MSMEs loans. So basically, their digital footprints were used in the new credit assessment model. So whenever there is a questions about development of MSMEs, you can write about this new credit assessment model, that their assessment is now done also based on their digital footprints to increase their credits. And it uses digitally fetched and verifiable information to automate the loan processes for MSMEs. This can be a point in your mains answer. Then loan applications are sourced through the Jan Samarth portal. And what is this portal? Basically it connects all the stakeholders which are there to provide loan to the MSMEs. So with this, we have completed this quick update. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about RDI scheme. Okay, and the development here is that the Department of Science and Technology has approved the Technology Development Board and Biotechnology Industry Research Assistant Council as the first second level fund manager under the RDI scheme. Basically, India has a very low research and development fund. So our only 0.7% of GDP goes to the research and development. For this, there are various programs to improve the condition of research and development program, and one of that is RDI scheme. It was launched last year by the government, and it is for the high impact startups and the technologies. And what its aim is to provide long-term financing or refinancing with the long tenure at the low and the nil interest rate to spur the private investment in research and development. And how much fund is given under this scheme? The fund allocation is of 1 lakh crore rupees, which is a very high amount, but we need it to improve the research and development of the country. Then it is a two-tiered funding mechanism where there is special purpose fund which are established within the Anusandhan National Research Foundation, which will be act like custodians of fund, and there will be second level fund manager which will fund from the SPF are allocated here in the form of term concession loan or equity funding, and that is the development that these two bodies are the first second level fund manager under this RDI scheme. So with this we have completed the today's session. To read further about our the current affairs initiative, you can visit the digital current affairs website and please solve the questions which are visible on your screen. Thank you, all the best.